Chapter 4. God is in the soul, and the soul is in God. The world is a scene of ceaseless action. It is in a state of constant flux. All its activity is motivated by an unseen power. It simply cannot exist without such motivation. It has its creator, its owner, its custodian, its prime mover, the Lord of all. The Lord has created the entire universe with the help of Nam, the immanent power. The Lord is one. He is without a second. He is the joint heritage of all: Hindus, Sikhs, Muslims, Christians, Zoroastrians, Buddhists, Jains, and others. He is the same for the new world as for the old. He is eternal and everlasting and has been the same deathless being throughout all the ages, from the beginning of time. He alone is permanent and is not subject to dissolution. All else is subject to birth, growth, death, and decay. Whatever we see around us is transient and ephemeral. Only our Creator, our Supreme Lord, our constant sustainer, is eternal. Our soul is a ray of this ever-shining sun, a spark from this powerhouse of spirit. Since its separation from its source, the soul has undergone endless woe and misery. Her only escape from a continuance of pain and privation is through return to her home, to her Lord. The fact that the Lord is in the soul and the soul is in the Lord can be comprehended only when we keep company with saints and live by their teachings. The banyan tree is tall and majestic and spreads over a vast area. That this huge tree has its being in its tiny seed can be realized only when the seed is sown, carefully nurtured, and grown to its full stature. Then alone can we understand that this tiny seed carried the banyan tree in its womb, and the banyan tree bore the seed. The soul is of the essence of the Lord and is pure and transparent. But in its association with the mind and the senses, it has gathered coats of filth and rust. Whatever karmas the mind creates, due to its outgoing tendencies, the soul has to suffer the consequences of them. We reap what we sow. As is the seed, so is the fruit. The world will not pay more for our wares than the price we ourselves mark on them. In this world of action and reaction, neither good nor bad deeds lead to deliverance from the wheel of recurring rebirth. King and subject, prince and pauper, man and woman, all are settling on the earth plane the account of their karmas. What we are today is to a degree the result of what we did in the past. What we do now will fashion our future life. But whether we are born as kings or beggars, we still remain prisoners of Kal, the negative power. A golden shackle is as much of a shackle as an iron one. This world is like a dome which echoes all that is spoken beneath it. Study the evolutionary process that is continually going on in this world. You will find that not a single one of the many types of living beings experiences lasting peace and happiness. One is dismayed to see the pain and suffering undergone by the different species. Even human beings, the epitome of the creation, have a long tale of woe to tell. Our cup of misery is ever full to the brim. Poverty and disease stalk the land. Strife and dissension wreck the peace of the world and leave behind bloodshed and misery, widows and orphans. In a world where the skies are pierced by the piteous cries of people begging for food, shelter, and clothing, where an invincible enemy, death, constantly chases one and all, where it is not known when the angels of death will come to take the living and where they will lead the soul, how can there ever be even a semblance of peace or happiness? This world is the domain of pleasure and pain. Only those who have made their way to their true home can escape it. They alone can reach the haven of peace. They alone can step out of the valley of tears and enter the regions of ineffable bliss. For this reason, we are all in search of God. We try in many ways to attain him. We do recitals and penances. We go on pilgrimages. We take holy baths. We give alms and charity. We go to temples and mosques. We retire to retreats in the forests and mountains. We wear ochre or orange robes. We wear long hair or shave our heads. We cover our bodies with ashes or earth. But despite all of these practices, we fail to realize him. The Lord resides within the innermost recesses of the heart and can be found only there. No one has ever discovered him in the outer world, and none will ever do so. All saints have said with one voice that the human body is the real temple of God, and he can be discovered only within this shrine. Which part of the human form he lives in, and how he has to be found, can be learned from saints, who alone have this timeless secret in their keeping, who alone know the gateway to the Lord's mansion, who alone have the key to the mystery of the Lord confined in this pot of clay. Such is God's own eternal law. Such is his own writ. Such is his own design. After placing this invaluable treasure of Nam, the word or logos, within us, he has securely locked the treasure chest and has placed the key of the lock in the keeping of saints. No one can unravel the mystery, pierce the impenetrable veil, or find the treasure without the help and guidance of a Gurmukh or saint. Our spiritual journey begins from the soles of our feet and ends at the crown of our head. The first part of the journey is up to the eyes, and the second part lies above them. In the first part flow the sense pleasures. In the second lies the precious treasure of Nam. Gaining it alone can put an end to this eternal round of birth and death. So long as we do not understand what Nam and Gurmukh mean, we cannot benefit from the teachings of the saints. All of the world's religions have various rites and rituals, customs and ceremonies, but the underlying reality, the basis of spirituality, the essence of truth that runs deep in them is exactly the same in all. Different saints appearing at different times and in different countries have remembered and sung the praises of the same one Lord. They have preached the same unchanging truth in different languages, the truth that was, that is, and that will be. They have used different words to refer to the one Lord of all. The power is not in the words, but in that which lies behind the words. The real purpose is to assimilate the universal, the timeless, the eternal teaching, namely, to connect the soul with the immanent power referred to as Kalma, word, Bangi Asmani, call of heaven, Ism-i Azam, greatest name, by Muslims, as Nam, name, Hukam, command, divine will, Akath Katha, unutterable tale, Bani, inner sound, Gurki Bani, Guru sound, Shabad, sound, Kirtan, divine music, by the Gurus in the line of Guru Nanak, as Nad, sound, Ram Nam, name of God, Ramdun, melody of God, Akash Bani, sound from the sky, by the Hindu saints, and as word or logos by Christians. This immanent power recognizes no caste, creed, or color, nor any geographical boundaries. In the words of Hazur Maharaji, Maharaj Charan Singh, it is an unspoken language, an unwritten law. It transcends all languages. It is beyond time and space. That which exists is one. Only people call it variously. Each of the different names that we give to the Lord in our love has its own history and can be confined to time and space. But the transcendent Nam is limitless. It has no beginning and no end. It is eternal. The names that we can read, write, or speak are called Varnatmak Nam. These are the roads, while the Dhunatmak Nam, the divine melody that is neither spoken nor read nor written, is our destination. The former is the means, the latter is our end and object. The Varnatmaknam may be likened to a pitcher of seawater, while the Dunatmaknam is the entire vast ocean. This Dunatmaknam is the heritage of all humanity. It is resounding in all human beings. With the help of different names that we give to God, we must reach this current of spirituality, which draws us across the ocean of phenomena, sunders the shackles that tie us to the wheel of birth and rebirth, and takes us to the lap of our Father. The network of words is a big forest. It is the cause of curious wanderings of the mind. It is such a pity that we get caught in the meshes of verbiage and miss the reality that the words describe. We chase the shadow and ignore the substance. We pursue the mirage and remain forever thirsty. Saints come into this world to free us from the cobwebs of misconceptions, to show us the truth, and to take us back to our Lord's mansion. They do not come to found new religions. They come to deliver us from bondage. They come not to reform the world, but to take us out of it. If we should try to pick up all the thorns of the world that are in our path, we would never succeed. Rather than doing this, if we wear strong shoes, we can easily walk over the thorns and reach our destination. The saints come to offer us such shoes. Kal, the negative power, does his utmost to keep everyone confined to his domain. The saints come to take us far beyond it, into the region of perfect bliss. Their teachings are for all humanity. It is we who in our selfishness narrow down their universal teachings and try to confine them to geographical boundaries. All saints have cut across caste, creed, and color, for these are garments of the body, which fall off when our allotted span of life is ended. This body, on which we lavish so much care, is reduced to ashes or dust when the life force that sustains it goes out. The saints therefore exhort us to seek the reality. This reality is Nam, the word or logos. It is only by uniting our consciousness with it that we can cross the dangerous ocean of phenomena and gain the shore of the realm of lasting bliss. This is the only elixir that can free us from the cycle of coming and going. Nam is the only potion that can dissolve all our doubts and suspicions. It is the only magic that can break the spell of Maya, or illusion. It is the only power that can awaken the soul from its ageless slumber and can lead it to union with the Lord. It is our only true friend, both here and beyond. Deep devotion to it is our only hope in this Kali Yuga, the Iron Age. How sad it is that we waste the precious gift of human life in running after transient and fleeting pleasures and the things of this world, but fail to find the one reality that can be permanently ours. Swami Vivekananda says, "The whole world is going towards death. Everything dies. All our progress, our vanities, our reforms, our luxuries, our wealth, our knowledge have that one end, death. That is all that is certain. Cities come and go, empires rise and fall, planets break into pieces and crumble into dust to be blown about the atmospheres of other planets. Thus it has been going on from time without beginning. Death is the end of everything. Death is the end of life, of beauty, of wealth, of power, of virtue too. Saints die and sinners die. Kings die and beggars die. They are all going to death, and yet this tremendous clinging on to life exists. If you wish to escape this fate, if you wish to gain victory over death, if you wish to step out of the recurring cycle of transmigration, if you wish to meet the Lord of Lords, the only way is to amass the wealth of Nam while you are still alive. Human life is the only exit through which one can get out of this spacious inn of 8,400,000 life forms. With earnest endeavor, you can get out. Otherwise, you will remain a wanderer in the maze of the dark dungeon of the world. deeply engrossed in spouse and children, in friends and relatives, in wealth and possessions, you become a part of the ever-moving wheel. By deep devotion to Nam, you step out of the perpetual motion of the wheel and regain the axis with its equilibrium, its stillness, its ineffable bliss. Nay, you become one with the Lord. There is but one God. The entire universe obeys His order. Eons pass, one after the other, but He remains unaltered, changeless and eternal. The saints are His messengers of mercy. They emerge from the ocean of Satnam at His command, carry on the mission assigned to them, and then go back and merge in Him. They are like the waves of the ocean that rise from it and then merge back into it. Jesus Christ said, "I came forth from the Father and am come into the world. Again I leave the world and go to the Father." That is why Guru Ram Das says, "The Bani is Guru and Guru is the Bani." This Bani connotes the immanent power, the word, logos, nam, or Shabad. This Bani created the worlds, the upper realms and the underworlds, and sustains them all. It pervades and permeates all human beings. The Bani, scripture, that we read is also worthy of our reverence, for it creates in us love for the Lord and engenders in us a strong desire to meet Him. It reveals to us our destination in life. It tells us of the way, speaks of the obstacles that beset the path, and points to the method of surmounting them. The saints come to extol the inner Bani, the timeless truth, the ancient wisdom. It is only by uniting our consciousness with this Bani, Nam or Shabad, that we get to know ourselves. Self-realization is essential before God-realization. The Greek philosophers enjoined, "Know thyself." This realization, however, is born only when we go beyond the domain of matter and mind, when the layers of dirt that cover the soul are washed off, when the knot of mind and soul is untied, when the mind reaches its own abode in triquity, and the soul is freed from its grip. Only then does the soul realize the truth that she is beyond all thought and without birth and death, whom sword cannot pierce nor fire burn, whom air cannot dry nor water melt, the beginningless and the endless, the ever-abiding, the intangible, the omniscient, the omnipotent being, that she is neither the body nor the mind, but beyond them all. She then yearns to return to where she belongs. Only when she reaches her source will all sorrow cease, all miseries vanish. The seeds of action will be burned, and the soul will be free forever. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says, "The self should be realized, should be heard, reflected on, and meditated upon. By the realization of the self, all is known." As long as this realization does not dawn, the question of liberation from birth and death does not arise. Those who are continually engaged in wordy arguments, in intellectual discussions, in theological wrangling, are only deceiving themselves. For the way to meet the Lord is only one, and it consists in uniting our consciousness with Nam. Individuals may deceive the world and its people, but they can never deceive the Lord who dwells within. Those favored ones who realize the self are constantly steeped in devotion to Nam. Sitting or standing, walking or running, eating or drinking, awake or asleep, their consciousness is merged in Nam. Their longing brings them to the court of the Lord. They alone win the supreme laurels of life. They alone enjoy the ineffable bliss of the Lord. In them, devotion to Nam has fully awakened, and they in turn awaken the same in those who come in contact with them. In the world, there are two kinds of people, namely Gurmukhs and Manmukhs. Both are His creation. But praise be to the Gurmukhs who attain self-realization. They live in the world, but do not become of the world. Even in the mire and dirt of the world around them, They remain free from its stains and are dyed in the color of the Satguru. Their cup is empty, ever ready to be filled with his grace. Manmukhs, on the other hand, remain steeped in ignorance and darkness, in dream and illusion, in slander and backbiting, in lust and anger, in aversions and attachments, in ego and vanity, and thus repeatedly suffer from the miseries of the successive lives in which they are placed. Their cup is full of the world and its objects, and has no room for his grace. Gurmukhs, by turning within, become real swans, spiritual beings, by drinking the ambrosia that constantly reigns there. They become one-pointed and completely absorbed in devotion to him. It is not by leaving hearth and home, by running away from duties and obligations, by taking to holy baths and pilgrimages, by penances and austerities that we become true renouncers, that we are transmuted from crows into swans, that we turn away from the tasteless pleasures of the world, that we find godhood. On the contrary, godhood is achieved by joining our consciousness with Nam and reaching Daswan Dwar, the third inner region, where all our coats or coverings, physical, astral, and causal, are completely shed, and the soul shines in its own naked refulgence. The saints call manmukhs crows, for a crow will always gravitate toward dirt, even if it is sitting on the bank of a pool of pure, transparent water. We run after sense pleasures, which are transient and fleeting, and thus miss the nobler, sublimer, higher, and purer pleasure of Nam. While manmukhs relish what has been truly described as filth and enjoy insipid pleasures, gurmukhs drink divine elixir, eat pearls from the pool of immortality, and abide in unfathomable bliss. Sant Mat, the path of the saints, does not make us cowards or escapists. By secluding ourselves in forests and caves, we do not get rid of our cravings. We still need food, clothing, and shelter. Leaving the bread of our own homes, we have to evoke the charity of 1,000 others. We are the initiates of valiant Satgurus and have to follow in their footsteps. Saints earn their own livelihood, with which they feed themselves and their families, while also serving their seekers and disciples. Guru Nanak farmed his land at Kartarpur, notwithstanding the fact that he had wealthy disciples. Kabir Sahib remained a weaver throughout his life, although many a prince was his devotee. Sant Ravidas continued to mend shoes, even though Rani Mirabai and Raja Pipa were his disciples. Baba Jaimal Singh remained in the service of the government and lived on his pension. So did Maharaj Charan Singh. If you find a price tag attached to a master, then you have not found a proper one. There is greatness in begging from the Lord rather than from the world. Even a worm that strives toward God is greater than the greatest of those who are unmindful of the Lord. We therefore have to live in the world, scrupulously doing all the duties assigned by our karmas, and without attachment, desire, or regret, in a way that clears the outstanding karmic account without lengthening it further. This can only happen when we keep our attention constantly fixed in Him. When all desires that were hid in the heart are renounced, then a mortal becomes immortal and reaches God. As a married woman lives with her parents, serves them devotedly, carries out domestic chores, plays with her girlhood friends and associates, yet her attention is constantly fixed on her husband, so also do the Gurmukhs live in this world. In spite of being a part of it, they are not stained by it. When we cut a jackfruit, we smear our hands with oil so the gum will not stick to our hands. In the same way, we must lead our family life with steadfast devotion to God. If we do so, the attachment of wealth and possessions, honor and glory, family and relatives will not overwhelm us. The real pool of the nectar of immortality lies within the body. It is by gaining access to this pool within that we can wash off our sins, remove our coats of filth, untie the knot of the mind and the soul, realize our hidden self, and go beyond the domain of Kal. Nothing short of access to this pool can win us salvation. We revere Amritsar, which is a holy city in the Punjab, for it was here that the great gurus in the line of Guru Nanak lived and meditated. It was here that they practiced Nam Bhakti, devotion to Nam. It was here that they sang of their love for the Lord. It was here that the penances, the chanting, the meditation, worship, and prayer of innumerable devotees were carried out. But by bathing in the pool in Amritsar, the cycle of birth and death does not end. The outside dirt can be washed away with water and soap, but the dirt of sins can be cleansed by Nam Bhakti alone. No intellectual sophistication or argumentation can ever bring salvation. The case of the intellectually learned is like that of a person whose heart is burning in the 5 fires of lust, greed, anger, attachment, and egotism, and yet he is constantly engaged in trying to extinguish the fires of others. He himself has a heavy load of karmas to carry, yet he remains a beast of burden for others. His own house is being robbed by the 5 thieves, while he is standing guard over the property of others. As regards the reading of scriptures, it would be well if one were to read or listen to them carefully, understand their true significance, and then act upon them. Reading is better than not reading, but practice of what is enjoined in the scriptures is infinitely better. The present-day practice of having holy books read by hired clergy, often in one's absence, can have little value. It is like the churning of water from which no butter can ever be produced. Just as memorizing a railway guide can never take one to one's destination, so also, unless after obtaining the necessary information as to the route and the train, one actually buys the ticket and takes one's seat on the train, one can never arrive at the destination. Mere reading has little value. We cannot get rain by pressing the pages of the almanac with our hands. You may press your hardest, but you will not get a drop of water. You may find many noble sentiments in the scriptures, but you cannot attain devotion simply by reading them. Saints never criticize or condemn anybody. They do not, however, shy away from stating the facts. They give out pure truth. They leave us in no doubt. Like the surgeon, they leave no foreign matter in the wound to endanger the life of the patient. They warn us of the futility of practices that have nothing whatever to commend them. It must be fully realized that without a Satguru, the secret of Nam cannot be had, and without devotion to Nam, there is no salvation. The real obstacle that stands in the way of our contacting the Lord who resides within us is our ego, our I-ness. Egotism is like a heap of ashes. All the water poured into it will just be absorbed by it. Even if one dissolves his physical frame in worship of God, egotism will not vanish. We have to endeavor to get rid of this ego and learn humility. Jesus Christ says, "Blessed are the meek, the pure in heart." It is only when the ego is subdued that the lowliest of the low, the most sinful of the sinners, the most abject of the fallen, can be transformed into the loftiest of the lofty, the purest of the pure, and the highest Lord of all. For those who obliterate their ego, God realization can be a reality, even while they are living on this earth plane. So long as the mind is engrossed in the panorama of the world, it has no chance of escape from the veil of tragedy and tears with its births and deaths, worries and pleasures, sighs and laughter, ambitions and frustrations, love and hatred. So long as we carry on devotion to the Lord in accordance with the dictates of the mind, we will only become all the more extroverted and keep running outward, away from the inner reality, the treasure lying buried within. It is like searching for a needle in a haystack when it was never there to begin with. The quest can never succeed. It only adds to our ego, makes our heavy burden still heavier and more wearisome, and takes us yet farther from our goal. True devotion to the Lord is directed inward. It is the ascent of the body consciousness both inward and upward. The mind's direction, on the other hand, is outward. Thus the two can never be reconciled. Salvation does not lie in wearing variously colored robes, nor in having long hair. Let it be realized clearly that there is only one barrier separating us from the Lord, and that is our ego. This wall is reinforced by our desires and cravings. It can be eliminated only by the ageless elixir of Nam. People who are constantly roasting themselves in the fires of desires and cravings are truly chasing a shadow and cannot but repent dearly at the time of death. There are others who live in the world, carry out their worldly duties, and yet remain detached from it. They are always mindful of the Lord and constantly remain devoted to Him. Thus they escape the filth and the dirty stains of the world. Devotees of the Lord live in the midst of illusion and yet are not affected or mastered by it. By means of the Surat Shabad practice, they are washed clean and are dyed fast in the color of Nam. They have both fear and love of the Lord. Fear lest they do anything that is displeasing to God, lest they commit a deed of which God does not approve. They love the Lord and His creation too. They look down upon no one. They do not think ill of anyone or deceive their fellow beings. They do not abuse the temples of the living God. They bear true love for God and all His living beings. Thus they are loved by the Lord in return. They are the ones who have gained glory in the court of the Lord and have utilized to the fullest extent the precious gift of the human form granted to them. On the other hand, Manmukhs love mammon. Attachment and aversion, desire and anger gnaw at their vitals and cover their souls with dirt. Desire and anger tie around their necks the ever-sounding rattle of take this and leave that. They are driven to extremes by the constant goading of avarice and greed. Their hunger is insatiable, it is never appeased. Like dogs, they run from one door to another, and yet their hearts are empty. Nothing seems to awaken them, not even the deaths of their near and dear ones, who leave all their possessions behind and go away empty-handed. They see only the cloak and not what the cloak covers. They forget that the cloak, the body, ends in a handful of dust. The soul within is the deathless being. They have made a prisoner of her. They do not even remember her. The soul wants the joy of unbounded freedom, but her wings are clipped. She is tied hand and foot to strong posts. Hers is a pitiable plight. Even when she inhabits the human frame, so unique a position in the scale of evolution, she fails to gain liberation to meet her Lord. Guru Amar Das says, "Through the true name one obtains true honor. Without the name, none attains emancipation. Without the true Guru, no one finds the name." Thus, no other way exists, and no one other than the Satguru can lead us back home. Even in the sphere of this world, a teacher is necessary to aid us in gaining knowledge or various skills. No skill can be mastered without a teacher. Yet how extraordinary it is that in the most involved and advanced of sciences, that of God realization, we ignore so utterly the need for a master. Without the Guru, no one can find the way. No one can unravel the mystery. No one can cross this vast ocean and reach the distant shore of Godhood. All of us are in search of God, but only those attain Him on whom the Lord showers His grace. No blind person can ever catch someone with sight unless the latter either calls to him or gives him his hand. It is only when the Lord wills it that we think of Him and devote ourselves to Him. If it lay in our own power to reach Him by ourselves, what was the need to suffer the pangs of separation for so many millennia? Why need we have suffered such pain and agony? Why need we have cried our hearts out? No soul can ever attain liberation without the Lord's grace. This grace He confers by granting us the company of saints, who reveal to us the secret of this elixir, who engender in us devotion for the Lord, who awaken the soul from its slumber and make it yearn for the Lord. Saints therefore continually warn the mind. Even now they say, "Take heed, so long as you do not gain the company of a saint and have the mystery of Nam revealed to you, you can never rend the veil that hides the Lord from your view. You can never end the cycle of birth and rebirth. The drop can never merge in the ocean and become the ocean. The spark can never join the flame and become the flame. Nam is the key to the mystery of life, to the mystery of the different planes of existence. There is nothing that cannot be accomplished. There is nothing that cannot be known by the power of Nam. All means, save Nam Bhakti, are utterly futile. They increase rather than remove the heavy dirt of ego. Therefore, it behooves us to take pity on our soul, which has undergone endless misery for eons, and to carry on one pointed devotion to Nam in order to end her captivity forever and ever. God realization has to be made a reality here and now, and Nam Bhakti is the method of devotion that brings this about.